The homecoming. Fateh Chakravarti was the ringleader among the boys of the village. A new idea for mischief got into his head. There was a heavy log lying on the muddy bank of the river. He decided that they should all work together to shift the log from its place. The owner of the log would be angry, and they would all enjoy the fun. But just as the fun was about to begin, Makhan, Fateh's younger brother, sauntered up and sat down on the log. He appeared like a young philosopher meditating on the futility of games. Fateh was furious.
Makan,
He cried.
if you don't get down this minute, I'll thrash you.
Makhan only moved to a more comfortable position. Now, if Fateh was to keep his regal dignity before the public, it was clear he ought to carry out his threat. He gave the command to roll the log and Makhan over together. Makhan heard the order and made it a point of honor to stick on. The boys began to heave at the log with all their might, calling out.
1, 2, 3, go.
At the word go, the log went, and with it went Makhan's philosophy, glory and all. Makhan rose and rushed at Fateh and scratched his face, and beat him and kicked him, and then went home, crying. The first act of the drama was over. Fateh wiped his face and sat down on the edge of a sunken barge on the river bank and began to chew a blade of grass. A boat came up to the landing, and a middle-aged man stepped on shore. He asked Fateh where the Chakravartis lived. Fateh went on chewing the grass and said,
Go and find out yourself.
When Fateh came into the house, his mother said angrily,
So, you have been hitting Makan again?
Fateh answered indignantly.
No, I haven't. Who told you that?
His mother shouted.
Don't lie, you have.
I tell you, I haven't. Ask Makan.
Fateh replied. Makhan said,
Yes, mother. Fateh did hit me.
Fateh could not bear this injustice any longer. He rushed at Makhan and hammered him with blows for telling lies. His mother pulled Fateh away, beating him with her hands and shouting at him. It was at this critical juncture that the grey-haired stranger arrived. It was the man Fateh had met in the morning. As soon as his mother saw the stranger, her anger changed to surprise. It was her brother, Bishambar. She bowed to touch his feet. The next few days were full of rejoicing. The man asked after the education of the two boys. He was told by his sister that Fateh was a perpetual nuisance. He was lazy, disobedient and wild. But Makhan was as good as gold, as quiet as a lamb and very fond of reading. Bishambar kindly offered to take Fateh off his sister's hands and educate him with his own children in Kolkata. The widowed mother readily agreed. It was an immense relief to the mother to get rid of Fateh, though she was somewhat distressed to see his extreme eagerness to get away. When they reached Kolkata, Fateh made the acquaintance with his aunt for the first time. She was by no means pleased with this unnecessary addition to her family. She found her own 3 boys quite enough to manage. And to bring a village lad of 14 into their midst was terribly upsetting. It brought anguish to Fateh to be the unwelcome guest in his uncle's house, despised and slighted on every occasion. He longed to go back to his village home. He remembered the glorious meadow where he used to fly his kite all day long, the broad river banks where he would wander about, singing and shouting when he wanted, the narrow brook where he could dive and swim as he liked. He thought of his band of companions over whom he was despot. Above all, the memory of his tyrant mother occupied him day and night. In school, Fatik was the most unresponsive boy. He gaped and remained silent when the teacher asked him a question. When other boys were out at play, he stood wistfully by the window. One day, he summoned all his courage and asked.
Uncle, when can I go home?
His uncle answered.
Wait till the holidays in November.
That was indeed a long wait. Fatik lost his lesson book soon. Day after day, the teacher would cane him mercilessly. At last, he went to his aunt and told her that he had lost his book. His aunt contemptuously shouted,
You clumsy country lout. How can I afford, with all my family, to buy you new books 5 times a month?
That day, on his way back from school, Fatik had a headache with a fit of shivering. He felt he was going to have an attack of malarial fever. He was afraid that he would be a nuisance to his aunt. Later that day, Fatik was nowhere to be seen. The rain had been pouring in torrents. At last, Bishambar sought the help of the police. At the end of the day, a police van stopped at the door before the house. It was still raining when 2 constables brought out Fatik in their arms. He was wet through, muddy all over, his face and eyes flushed red with fever and his limbs all trembling. Bishambar carried him inside in his arms. When his wife saw him, she exclaimed,
What a heap of trouble this boy has given us. Hadn't you better send him home?
Fatik heard her words and sobbed out loud.
Uncle, I was going home but they dragged me back again.
The fever rose very high and the boy was delirious. Bishambar brought in a doctor. Fatik opened his eyes flushed with fever and looked up to the ceiling and said vacantly,
Uncle, have the holidays come yet? May I go home?
Bishambar wiped the tears from his eyes and sat by him through the night. The next day, when Fatik became conscious for a short while, he turned his eyes about the room as if expecting to see someone. Disappointed, he turned his face to the wall with a deep sigh. Bishambar knew his thoughts and whispered.
Fatik, I have sent for your mother.
The doctor said in a troubled voice that the boy's condition was very critical. Fatik began to cry out.
By the mark, 3 fathoms. By the mark, 4 fathoms. By the mark.
He had heard a sailor on a steamer calling out the mark on the plumb line. Now, he was himself plumbing an unfathomable sea. Later in the day, Fatik's mother came and seeing him, cried.
Fatik, my dear, my darling.
Fatik slowly turned his head and said,
Mother, the holidays have come.